Here is a question, and it was in response to the video that I did last week that says, that was called Have My Views Changed at All Over the Years? And I think I talked about my views on weighing in recovery. Anyway, the question is, hi Tabitha, with regards to your opinion on not weighing, do you not think in order to rewire the brain to understand that the number on the scale is not of importance, avoiding being weighed won't allow for this? Is it not better to weigh weekly and teach your brain that there's nothing wrong with seeing a higher number? I'm only asking this as currently my treatment team says that in order to get over the irrational fear of weight gain, we have to face it and see the number rise and mentally learn how to deal with it. They say that avoidance is dangerous as we may need to be weighed at some stage in life, and seeing the number then could possibly trigger a relapse as if we are not teaching ourselves that higher figures were nothing to be feared. What would your opinion on this be? So I understand the theory behind that. It's just not what works in my experience, and that doesn't mean that it doesn't work for some people. I found that for the majority of people, what happens when we have an eating disorder is because we are constantly looking at the number on the scale, we're getting on the scale very frequently. In doing so, we are teaching our brains that the number on the scale is important, because as far as your brain is concerned, why would you keep on getting on the scale if that number wasn't really important? And we're also acting as if that number is very important, and we're engaging in emotional responses and reactions in regards to that number, whether it's feelings of relief or feelings of not relief and fear and all of those things. We're engaging in emotional reactions, and over the years, it's not overnight by any means, but over the years we're teaching our brain that that number on the scale must be super important. Now, I think that in one of the first things that we need to do in sort of on that topic when we are in recovery is we have to rewire that. We have to teach the brain that the number on the scale is unimportant, and you can't do that by getting on the scale. Even if you're getting on the scale to try and get yourself used to the number going up, you're still teaching your brain that the number is important. And here's the thing, it's not important. It doesn't tell you fuck all about your recovery. So what if you get on the scale and the number goes up, but if you're still restricting heavily and you're still doing all of your eating disorder behaviors, you still have an eating disorder. Even if that number goes up into an overweight BMI, you still have an eating disorder if you're engaging in all of your eating disorder behaviors and things like that. So it means fuck all. It really is unimportant. And so the big part of it is that getting on the scale, that number tells you nothing. It really tells you absolutely nothing. Now, I don't weigh myself. And it's not even the case now that I don't weigh myself because I'm actively trying not to weigh myself. It just never occurs to me to weigh myself. It just doesn't. We have a set of scales in the house, but it wouldn't occur to me to get on them. It's just because I'm that uninterested in what the number says. Now, when I had an eating disorder, scales in the house, anyone's house. I was one of those weird people that if I went round to a friend's house, if I noticed they had scales in their bathroom, I'd go and I'd be like, oh, I need a toilet, and I'd go and take my shoes off and I'd get on the scales just to see, well, if their scales said the same thing that my scales at home did. I was also one of those weird people that if I went into a shop that had scales in it, I'd be getting on all the different scales to see if the number differed. Because my brain was obsessed with that number. And the reason my brain was obsessed with that number is because I had taught my brain via my actions that that number was important. And so when I was in recovery, like I've said before, because I didn't do it the way that I tell people to do it, because I didn't know fuck all when I was in recovery. I was like, I was like a guinea pig going through it all, testing it all out myself. I got on the scale and, I sort of told myself, look, I'm going to get used to this number going up. And that worked to a degree, but it didn't work to sort of stop me wanting to weigh myself frequently. And then when I realised that, one day I was like, right, I'm not getting on the scale at all. And I was already what you would call, quote unquote, nutritionally rehabilitated or weight restored at that point anyway. And I was like, right, chucking out the scale, not getting on it. Oh, and by the way, I've been through so many iterations of chucking out the scale and then buying another scale in my recovery years. So that wasn't a new thing. But I decided to chuck it out, and I decided I'm going to train myself just not to know what that is. I'm going to make myself deal with not knowing what it is, not checking my weight. And at the start, my brain was like, you should check your weight, what if it's changed? And part of me was like, look, don't even care, don't even care. But my brain was kind of like, no, you should care, come on, you should care. And my brain was doing that because I taught it that it was important that I weighed myself. And then after a while, my brain stopped doing that. And it was probably years later that I first had to get on the scale again, going to a doctor appointment, because that's what they get you to do. And I got on the scale and I couldn't give a fuck what the number said. I saw it. I know I saw it. I can't remember what it said because that was how unimportant it was to me. So my point being is I didn't go through this whole, I've got to train my brain to be neutral about the number. I just trained my brain out of thinking that that number was important, never thought to get on the scale. And then the next time that I was asked to get on the scale by the doctor, I did. And it was a non-event for me. It wasn't like my brain suddenly went off into this like, wow, we're getting on the scale again. It was a complete non-event because my brain had been taught that it was very unimportant and not to give a fuck about it. And the way that I taught my brain that was by not doing it. And that's why I say, look, don't worry about teaching neutrality. Just worry about teaching your brain that that number is unimportant in any way, shape, or form. And the only way that you're going to do that is by not engaging in your desire to weigh yourself. And for some of us, that also means not engaging in other people's desire to weigh us. But like I said, that's my opinion. And people may disagree with me. You may decide, actually that's not the right thing for me. Got to be careful with that though. Because remember, if you still have an active eating disorder, you may be deciding maybe that's not the right thing for me just because it scares the fuck out of you not to know what your weight is and not to get on the scale regularly. But anyway, I'll leave that there. Okay, bye.